Sienna Brooks pressed her palm against the cool glass window of the bus. Watching the skyscrapers of New York City grow taller with each passing mile, her heart hammered against her ribs, a rhythm of anxiety and hope mixed together. At 24, she had never imagined leaving Clearwater Cove, the tiny coastal town where she grew up collecting seashells and dreaming of a different life. But desperate times called for desperate measures. And her younger brother. Tyler's medical bills were piling up faster than she could count. The leather bag on her lap held everything precious to her. A worn resume that listed her experience as a waitress at Molly's Diner. A few sketches of business ideas she had scribbled during slow shifts. And a marriage certificate that bore her signature next to a name she had never spoken aloud. Owen Mitchell, her husband. A man she had never met, never seen, connected to her only through a contract signed 3 months ago. In a moment of pure desperation, the marriage agency had presented it as a simple transaction. A wealthy man needed a wife on paper to satisfy some family requirement. She needed money to pay for Tyler's heart surgery. No meeting required, no relationship expected, just signatures and bank transfers. She had signed with trembling hands, watching $80,000 appear in her account the next day. Money that gave Tyler a chance at life. Money that came with a secret she could never share. Entering a new world Mitchell. Technologies towered above Madison Avenue like a giant of steel and ambition. Sienna stepped through the revolving doors into a lobby that smelled of expensive coffee and success. Women in designer suits clicked past on heels that cost more than her monthly rent. Men in crisp shirts talked urgently into phones, their voices filled with the confidence of people who belonged. She clutched her folder tighter, feeling her floral thrift store dress suddenly suffocate her. The interview was for a junior analyst position, something she had barely qualified for based on her online business courses and a recommendation. Letter from her community college professor. It was a long shot, a prayer thrown into the universe, but she needed this job. Tyler's recovery required ongoing medication, and the money from the contract marriage was already running thin. The elevator ride to the 15th floor felt like ascending into another dimension. Sienna caught a reflection in the polished doors. Sea-green eyes stared back at her, wide with uncertainty, framed by auburn hair she had carefully styled that morning. She looked young, out of place. A girl playing dress-up in a world of professionals. The panel of judgment. The interview room was all windows and harsh lighting. 3 people sat behind a sleek black table, their expressions ranging from bored to mildly curious. Sienna recognized the woman in the center from the company website. Victoria Hayes, senior team leader, known for her sharp tongue and sharper business instincts. Her blonde hair was pulled into a perfect bun, her suit probably worth more than Sienna's entire wardrobe. Sienna settled into the chair across from them, her hands folded to hide their shaking. The questions came rapid fire, each one designed to expose her lack of corporate experience. She answered honestly, talking about her ideas for streamlining customer service based on her years of watching people, understanding their needs, anticipating problems before they happened. Victoria's lips curled slightly, not quite a smile. "Miss Brooks, your resume shows you've spent 6 years serving coffee and pancakes. What makes you think you can analyze market trends for a tech company?" The words stung, but Sienna had faced worse. She thought of Tyler's smile when the doctor said his surgery was successful. The way he hugged her and promised to make her proud someday. That memory straightened her spine. "Because I've spent 6 years studying people, understanding what they want before they ask for it. Technology serves people, and I know people better than any algorithm can calculate." Something shifted in the room. One of the other interviewers, an older man with kind eyes, nodded slightly. But it was the movement behind the one-way glass that she couldn't see that mattered most. The man. Behind the glass, Owen Mitchell stood in the observation room, his arms crossed, his dark eyes fixed on the woman in the floral dress. He had not planned to watch these interviews. Junior analyst positions were beneath his attention, usually handled entirely by HR and department heads. But something about her application had caught his eye the night before. Maybe it was the honesty in her cover letter. The way she wrote about wanting to prove that small-town values could translate to big-city success. Now, Watching her hold her ground against Victoria's thinly veiled condescension, he felt an unexpected pull of respect. She was nervous, but not broken, out of place, but not defeated. There was a strength in her that reminded him of something he had lost years ago, buried under family expectations and corporate pressures. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from his wife, the mysterious woman he had married through that ridiculous agency arrangement his lawyer had suggested. "Rough day," the message read. "Sometimes I feel like I'm fighting a battle no one else can see." Owen typed back quickly, his eyes still on Sienna. "I understand that feeling. Keep fighting. You're stronger than you think." These messages had become a strange comfort over the past months. A faceless confidant who understood the weight of carrying burdens alone. He pocketed his phone and returned his attention to the interview, unaware that the woman texting him and the woman sitting in that chair were one and the same. An unexpected beginning, the interview ended with polite nods and vague promises to be in touch. Sienna rode the elevator down, her emotions a tangle of hope and doubt. She had done her best, laid her truth on the table. And now all she could do was wait. 3 days later, her phone rang with a New York number. The HR director's voice was professionally cheerful. "Miss Brooks, we would like to offer you the junior analyst position. When can you start?" Sienna's knees went weak with relief. She accepted immediately, her mind already racing through logistics. She would need to find an apartment in the city. Something cheap enough to maintain while still sending money home for Tyler's care. The salary was modest, but enough to survive if she was careful. That night, she texted her husband, the stranger who had inadvertently changed her life. "Got a job today?" A real one in the city. Maybe things are finally looking up. Miles across the city, in a penthouse apartment overlooking Central Park, Owen read the message and smiled. His mysterious wife's victories felt like his own, a connection he could not explain but had grown to treasure. "Congratulations," he typed back. "They're lucky to have you. My day was endless meetings, but this news makes it better." Neither of them knew that come Monday morning, their carefully separated worlds would collide in ways that would shatter every assumption they held. The interview had been just the beginning. The real story was about to unfold, one revelation at a time. Sienna Brooks packed her small suitcase that weekend, said goodbye to Tyler with promises to visit often, and boarded a bus to her new life. Somewhere in that same city, Owen Mitchell prepared for another week of board meetings and corporate strategy, never suspecting that the solution to his loneliness was about to walk through his office doors. The stage was set. Two strangers bound by a secret contract, about to discover that fate has a sense of humor. Sometimes the person you've been searching for has been there all along, hidden in plain sight. Monday morning arrived with the kind of nervous energy that made Sienna's hand shake as she buttoned her second-hand blazer. She had found a tiny studio apartment in Brooklyn, barely larger than a closet, but it was hers. The subway ride to Mitchell Technologies felt surreal, like stepping into a movie where she was playing a role she had not auditioned for. The office buzzed with the kind of organized chaos that spoke of deadlines and ambition. Sienna checked in at reception, received her badge, and was directed to the 15th floor, the same floor where she had interviewed. Her stomach twisted with anticipation and dread in equal measure. A woman approached her with a smile that did not reach her eyes. Victoria Hayes, the same senior team leader from her interview, extended a perfectly manicured hand. "Sienna Brooks, welcome to Mitchell Technologies. I'll be overseeing your training and assignments." Her tone was professional, but something cold lurked beneath the surface. Sienna shook her hand, trying to project confidence she did not feel. "Thank you for this opportunity. I'm ready to learn and contribute however I can." Victoria's smile sharpened like a blade. "We'll see about that. Your desk is over there, next to the copy room. I've prepared some orientation materials for you to review. Try to keep up." The desk was tucked in a corner, partially hidden behind a filing cabinet. Not exactly a warm welcome, but Sienna had faced worse. She settled in, opening the thick binder Victoria had left, filled with company policies, product information, and market analysis reports that made her head spin. The CEO shadowed what? Sienna did not know was that Owen Mitchell made a habit of walking the floors of his company, observing his employees in their natural environment. He believed you learned more about people by watching them work than reading any performance review. That Monday, he found himself on the 15th floor, ostensibly checking on a project timeline, but truthfully drawn by curiosity about the new hire. He spotted her immediately. The woman from the interview, now hunched over her desk, scribbling notes with intense concentration. Her auburn hair fell forward, partially hiding her face, but he could see the determination in the set of her shoulders. She looked so focused, so earnest, completely unaware of the whispers happening around her too. Analysts near the water cooler were not subtle in their observations. "That's the new girl Victoria hired," one murmured. "From some nowhere town. I give her 2 weeks before she quits." Owen's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He had learned long ago that defending someone too obviously could make their situation worse. Instead, he made a mental note and continued his rounds, filing away the information for later. As he passed Sienna's desk, their eyes met for a brief second. She looked startled, then quickly looked down, her cheeks flushing pink. He nodded slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement, then moved on. But something about that moment lingered, a spark of recognition he could not explain. Messages in the dark that evening. Exhausted and overwhelmed, Sienna collapsed onto her narrow bed in her Brooklyn apartment. The day had been a blur of information, subtle slights, and the constant feeling of being watched and judged. She reached for her phone. Seeking the one comfort that had become her anchor over the past months, she texted her husband, the man she had never met, but somehow trusted with her truths. "First day at the new job was brutal. Everyone thinks I don't belong." Maybe they're right. Across the city, Owen sat in his home office, reviewing contracts, when his phone lit up. He read her message, feeling a familiar protective instinct rise. This woman, whoever she was, had become important to him in ways that defied logic. Their nightly exchanges had evolved from simple complaints to genuine conversations. A connection built on honesty because they owed each other nothing but truth. He typed back carefully. "They're wrong. You belong anywhere you decide to stand your ground. First days are always the hardest. Give it time. You're tougher than you think." Her response came quickly. "How do you know I'm tough?" "You don't even know me." Owen paused, considering his words. "I know you married a stranger to solve a problem. I know you take risks when it matters. That takes courage most people don't have. Trust yourself." In her small apartment, Sienna felt tears prick her eyes. This stranger understood her better than people who had known her for years. She smiled despite her exhaustion. "Thank you. I needed to hear that. How was your day?" "Long meetings with people who talk a lot, but say nothing. But there's someone new at the company who reminds me why I started this business. Fresh perspective, genuine heart. Made me think differently." Sienna laughed softly, unaware he was describing her. "Sounds like someone worth knowing?" "Maybe," Owen replied, a small smile playing on his lips. "Maybe so." The project that changed everything 2 weeks into her position, Sienna had settled into a rhythm. She arrived early, stayed late, and absorbed information like a sponge. Victoria continued to pile on assignments, each one designed to overwhelm, but Sienna tackled them methodically. She might not have an MBA, but she had something better. The ability to see patterns others missed. It was during a team meeting that everything shifted. Victoria was presenting a market analysis for a new app launch, confident in her data and projections. Sienna sat quietly in the back, her notebook filled with observations. Something about the numbers did not align with the user behavior patterns she had noticed in the research. As Victoria concluded her presentation, Owen entered the room unexpectedly. Everyone straightened, the energy shifting instantly. He took a seat at the head of the table, his presence commanding without effort. "Continue," he said simply. Victoria beamed, clearly pleased to present before the CEO. She ran through her recommendations, suggesting a marketing strategy aimed at high-income professionals. Owen listened, his expression unreadable. Then his eyes landed on Sienna. "Miss Brooks, you've been reviewing this data as part of your orientation. What's your take?" The room went silent. Victoria's smile froze. All eyes turned to Sienna, some curious, others skeptical. Her heart raced, but she thought of Tyler, of why she was here, of the stranger who texted her encouragement every night. She stood, her voice steady, despite her nerves. The data is solid, but I think we're missing the real opportunity. The user engagement patterns suggest our primary audience is not high-income professionals. It's people like me, middle-income individuals, looking for solutions to everyday problems. They want efficiency, not luxury. If we adjust the marketing to speak to their actual needs rather than aspirational ones, we could triple our user base. Victoria's face flushed red. That's a rather simplistic view from someone with limited experience. But Owen was leaning forward, interest clear in his dark eyes. Explain your reasoning, Miss Brooks. Sienna pulled out her notebook, walking through her analysis. She had spent late nights cross-referencing user reviews, social media discussions, and download patterns. Her conclusions were based on human behavior, not just numbers. As she spoke, she forgot to be nervous, lost in the excitement of sharing what she had discovered. When she finished, Owen nodded slowly. That's exactly the kind of thinking we need. Victoria, I want you to work with Miss Brooks to revise the strategy incorporating these insights. Present the updated plan next week. Victoria's expression could have curdled milk, but she nodded stiffly. Of course, jealousy and schemes after the meeting, Victoria cornered Sienna in the hallway, her voice low and venomous. You think you're clever, showing off in front of Owen? Let me tell you something, small-town girl. I've worked here for 7 years. I've earned my place. You're just a novelty, and novelties wear off fast. Sienna met her gaze evenly. I'm not trying to take anything from you. I'm just doing my job. Your job is to learn and follow, not to undermine my presentations. Victoria stepped closer, her perfume overwhelming. Stay in your lane, or you'll find out just how difficult I can make your life here. Before Sienna could respond, Victoria turned sharply and walked away, her heels clicking like gunshots on the polished floor. Sienna leaned against the wall, her bravado crumbling now that she was alone. She had made an enemy, and not just any enemy, but someone with power and influence. That night, she texted her husband with shaking fingers. I think I messed up today. Spoke up when maybe I should have stayed quiet. Now someone powerful hates me. Owen read the message in his study, a frown creasing his forehead. He had noticed the tension between Victoria and Sienna after the meeting. Victoria Hayes was brilliant, but ruthless. Someone who saw every success around her as a personal threat. You didn't mess up, he typed. You were honest and right. People who feel threatened by truth are the ones with the problem, not you. Stay strong. Easy to say when you're not the target, she replied. Who says I'm not? I deal with threats in politics every day. The difference is, I don't let them change who I am. Neither should you. Sienna stared at her phone, drawing strength from his words. Whoever this man was, he had become her anchor in a storm she had not anticipated. Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without these talks. Owen felt something warm unfold in his chest. Same here. You make the burden lighter. Sleep well. The setup Victoria Hayes was not someone who forgave or forgot. The next day, she called a friend who worked in investigative research. I need background on Sienna Brooks. Everything. Where she came from, why she's really here, any secrets she's hiding. By week's end, Victoria had her ammunition. Sienna Brooks had come into money suddenly 3 months ago, right before applying to Mitchell Technologies. No clear source, just a large deposit that paid for her brother's surgery. Victoria's mind raced with possibilities. Blackmail? Fraud? Something was off, and she intended to use it. She also discovered something else interesting. Around the same time, Owen Mitchell had engaged a marriage agency for a contract arrangement. The dates aligned too perfectly to be coincidence. Victoria's eyes gleamed with malicious delight. If she could prove Sienna had somehow manipulated her way into Owen's life, into this company, she could destroy her completely. But she needed proof, needed the right moment to strike. So she waited watching, gathering pieces of a puzzle she did not fully understand, but intended to weaponize. Meanwhile, Sienna and Owen continued their nightly exchanges, each conversation weaving them closer together. They shared frustrations and small victories, hopes and fears, building a foundation of trust that neither recognized as love, but both felt as essential. The collision was inevitable. Two lives running parallel, bound by a secret neither had acknowledged, orbiting closer with each passing day. When the truth finally emerged, it would shatter everything they thought they knew and rebuild it into something neither could have imagined. The stage was set for revelation, and fate was running out of patience. 3 weeks into her position at Mitchell Technologies, Sienna had carved out a small place for herself. Her revised marketing strategy had increased app downloads by 40%, earning grudging respect from some colleagues and deepening Victoria's resentment, but success came with a price. The whispers had not stopped, and Victoria's cold shoulder had turned into active sabotage. Reassigning her projects and excluding her from key meetings, Friday afternoon brought unexpected chaos. Owen called an emergency meeting, his expression grave as he addressed the senior team. "We have a major problem. Our biggest client, Hartwell Industries, is threatening to pull their contract. They claim our software update caused data breaches in their system. If we lose them, we lose 30% of our revenue." The room erupted in urgent discussions. Victoria immediately began pointing fingers at the development team, while others scrambled to review security protocols. Sienna sat quietly, her mind racing through possibilities. She had been studying the software architecture during her orientation. Something about the timeline did not add up. Owen's eyes swept the room and landed on her. "Miss Brooks, you've been reviewing our systems integration. Any insights?" Every head turned toward her. Victoria's glare could have frozen fire. Sienna took a breath, channeling the confidence her mystery husband had been building in her through their nightly messages. "The update went live 2 weeks ago, but Hartwell reported issues starting a month ago. That means the breach is not from our update. Someone wants us to think it is." Owen leaned forward, his full attention on her. "Continue. If I could access the full security logs in Hartwell's complaint records, I might be able to trace the real source. It could be internal sabotage, or someone exploiting an older vulnerability and using our update as cover."
Ow.
"That's a serious accusation from someone who's been here less than a month. We should focus on damage control, not conspiracy theories." But Owen was already standing. "Miss Brooks, you have access as of now. I want a full analysis by Monday morning. Victoria, you'll assist her with whatever resources she needs." His tone left no room for argument, working through the weekend Saturday. Morning found Sienna and Victoria alone in the office, tension crackling between them like static electricity. Victoria had made her displeasure clear, dropping files on Sienna's desk with barely concealed hostility. "This is a waste of time. You're grasping at straws to look important." Sienna ignored the barbs, diving into security logs and user reports. Hours blurred together as she traced data patterns, cross-referencing access points and timestamps. Victoria made calls in the corner, her voice low and urgent, so Sienna was too focused to pay attention. What she discovered made her blood run cold. The breach originated from an internal access point. Someone with administrative credentials who had been siphoning data for months. The trail led to a series of logins that occurred during off hours, always from the same terminal in the executive wing. She was about to dig deeper when her phone buzzed. A text from her husband. "Working weekend. Big crisis at the company. Feels like everything's falling apart. How's your day?" Despite the stress, she smiled. His messages had become her lifeline. "Same here. Trying to solve a mystery that could save or sink everything. Scared I'll fail." His response came quickly. "You won't fail. Trust your instincts. They've gotten you this far. I believe in you." Those simple words steadied her shaking hands. She returned to her screen with renewed focus, unaware that across the building, Owen sat in his own office, staring at his phone, wishing he could meet this woman who had become so essential to his peace of mind. Victoria's gambit by Sunday afternoon. Sienna had compiled her evidence. The breach was deliberate, orchestrated by someone with deep access to company systems. But the identity remained hidden behind layers of encrypted pathways. She needed one more piece, one connection to expose the truth. Victoria watched her with calculating eyes. She had made her own discoveries over the weekend, confirming her suspicions about Sienna's sudden wealth and Owen's contract marriage. The pieces fit too perfectly. This small-town nobody had somehow entangled herself with Owen, and now she was playing detective, threatening to uncover things that might shine light in directions Victoria could not control. "Find anything useful?" Victoria asked, her tone dripping with false sweetness. Sienna rubbed her tired eyes. "Getting close. There's a pattern here, but I need access to the executive server logs to confirm." Victoria's expression shifted, something dangerous flickering across her features. "Those logs require CEO authorization. Good luck getting that on a Sunday." But Sienna was already typing a message to Owen, outlining what she needed and why. She hit send before doubt could stop her, then waited, her heart hammering. Owen's response came within minutes. "Access granted. Find the truth." Victoria's jaw tightened as she watched Sienna's face light up with relief. This girl had direct access to Owen in ways that took Victoria years to achieve. The jealousy that had been simmering now boiled over into something darker. "You think you're special, don't you?" Victoria stood abruptly, her voice sharp. "Showing up with your small-town charm, your doe eyes, manipulating your way into Owen's attention. I know what you are." Sienna looked up, confused by the sudden venom. "I don't know what you mean. I'm just trying to do my job." "Your job?" Victoria laughed bitterly. "Is that what you call it? Marrying your way into this company." The words hit Sienna like a physical blow. Her face drained of color. "How did you... .. "I know everything, Sienna. The mysterious money, the contract marriage, the convenient timing of your application here. You're a fraud, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows it." The revelation panic clawed at Sienna's chest. Her secret, the thing she had buried deep, was exposed. But beneath the fear, anger rose. She stood slowly, meeting Victoria's triumphant gaze. "You know nothing about my life or my choices. That marriage was a legal arrangement that saved my brother's life. It has nothing to do with this company or this job, doesn't it?" Victoria circled her desk like a predator. "Quite a coincidence that you married someone and then applied here? Tell me, does your husband know you're working at Mitchell Technologies? Does Owen know you're someone's wife?" The room spun. Sienna's mind raced, connecting dots she had been too blind to see. The credit card her husband had sent her months ago, the same sleek black design as the corporate cards here, the way Owen had defended her in meetings. The timing of everything, her phone sat on the desk, and with trembling hands she picked it up. She scrolled through months of messages, looking for clues she had missed. Then she saw it. A text from weeks ago where her husband mentioned working late on the 15th floor, the same floor where she worked. The same building? No, she whispered, but even as she denied it, the truth crystallized with devastating clarity. Victoria saw the realization dawn and smiled cruelly. "Finally figured it out? Your mystery husband and your CEO boss are the same person. What a tangled web you've woven." Sienna's hand shook as she dialed the number she had texted 1,000 times, but never called. It rang once, twice, and then she heard footsteps in the hallway. The door to the conference room opened, and Owen walked in, his phone pressed to his ear, ringing with her call. Their eyes met across the space. His phone displayed her name, the wife he had never met. Her phone showed his number, the husband who had been her anchor. The connection held for one eternal moment before the truth crashed over them both like a tidal wave. "Sienna." Owen's voice was barely a whisper, his phone lowering slowly. "Owen." Her voice broke on his name. Victoria stepped back, suddenly uncertain as she watched the scene unfold. This was not the dramatic exposure she had planned. Something else was happening, something raw and real that made her feel like an intruder. Pieces falling together when moved toward Sienna. His mind reeling through months of messages, late-night conversations, shared vulnerabilities. The woman who had kept him sane through corporate battles and lonely nights was here. Had been here all along, working under his roof, earning his professional respect even as she unknowingly held his heart. "You're my wife," he said, the words strange and wonderful on his tongue. "The woman I've been talking to every night?" "You're her." Sienna nodded, tears streaming down her face. "And you're him. The person who believed in me when no one else did? I never knew. I never imagined." "The credit card," Owen continued, pieces clicking into place. "I sent it months ago for emergencies. You used it for your brother's medication, the same card you gave me for company expenses. I thought it was strange they looked identical." She laughed through her tears, a sound caught between joy and disbelief. Victoria cleared her throat. Her moment of victory turned to ashes. "This is all very touching, but it doesn't change the fact that this is a conflict of interest. She should never have been hired here." Owen turned to her, his expression hardening. "Victoria, leave us. We'll discuss the security breach tomorrow, but the investigation now." His voice carried the weight of authority that had built an empire. Victoria grabbed her bag and stalked out, her heels echoing her fury down the empty hallway. The door closed, leaving Sienna and Owen alone in the vast conference room, the city lights of New York glittering through the windows behind them. The conversation. They needed silence stretched between them, heavy with 3 months of unknowing intimacy. Owen spoke first, his voice rough with emotion. "I've been talking to you every night, sharing things I've never told anyone. And you were here, right here, and I didn't know." Sienna wiped her eyes, her voice trembling. "You were the only person who saw me, really saw me, without judgment. Those messages got me through the hardest days. And now I find out it was you all along." Owen moved closer, stopping just an arm's length away. "Why did you marry me?" "The real reason." She met his gaze, honesty, the only option now. "My brother Tyler needed heart surgery. I had no money, no options, and the agency offered a solution. $80,000 for a year of a paper marriage. It felt like selling my soul, but it saved his life. I never meant to deceive anyone." "You didn't deceive me," Owen said softly. "I went into that arrangement for equally pragmatic reasons. My grandfather's will required marriage before I could fully inherit the company. I didn't believe in love, didn't want the complications. A contract seemed cleaner," Sienna repeated, catching the past tense. Owen reached out, his fingers gently brushing a tear from her cheek. The touch sent electricity through them both, familiar in a way that defied their lack of physical history. "These past months, talking to you, I started feeling something I convinced myself didn't exist. Connection, understanding, something real." Sienna's breath caught. "I felt it too. Every night, waiting for your messages. You became the best part of my day. I started imagining what you looked like, who you were, never guessing you were the man I watched from across the office, wishing I had the courage to really talk to. You did talk to me. Every night. You told me truths you couldn't say to anyone else." Owen's hand moved to cup her face, his thumb tracing her jawline. "And I told you mine. We built something real, Sienna. We just didn't know it. What happens now?" She whispered, her heart racing at his touch. "Victoria knows. Others will find out. The conflict of interest is real." Owen's expression grew determined. "We solve the security breach first. Then we figure out the rest. Together, no more secrets, no more hiding. We face this as what we actually are." "And what are we?" Sienna asked, hope and fear warring in her chest. "Two people who found each other in the most unlikely way." Owen smiled, a real smile that transformed his usually serious face. "Two people who maybe, just maybe, fell in love without realizing it." Sienna's eyes widened. "Love? We've never even been on a date. We didn't know each other until 20 minutes ago, didn't we?" Owen challenged gently. "I know you take your coffee with too much sugar because mornings are hard. I know you hum when you're concentrating. I know you're terrified of failing, but more terrified of not trying. I know your heart, Sienna. Isn't that more important than knowing your face first?" She laughed, a genuine sound of wonder. "I know you work late because silence feels lonely. I know you carry the weight of everyone's expectations, but never complain. I know you pretend to be cold, but you feel everything deeply. You're right. I know you too. Owen pulled her closer, his forehead resting against hers. The contract says we have 9 more months as husband and wife. What if we spent them actually being married? Dating, learning, building on what we already have? You want to stay married? Really married? Sienna's voice was barely audible. I want a chance at something real with the woman who's been real with me from the start. No contracts, no conditions. Just us, seeing where this goes. His eyes searched hers, vulnerable in a way she had never seen. What do you say? Sienna thought of all the nights she had poured her heart out to a stranger, never knowing he was right there. She thought of the way her pulse quickened when Owen walked into her room, the professional admiration that had been hiding something deeper. She thought of Tyler, healthy and happy, made possible by this man's generosity. But most of all, she thought of the connection that had sustained her. The trust that had built between 2 lonely souls reaching out in the dark. Yes, she whispered. And then stronger, yes, let's be real. Let's be us. Owen closed the final distance, his lips meeting hers in a kiss that tasted of tears and truth and new beginnings. It was their first kiss as husband and wife who actually knew each other, and it felt like coming home to a place they had been searching for their entire lives. The resolution Monday morning. Sienna presented her findings to the executive board. The breach had originated from a former employee who still had administrative access, someone who had been selling data to competitors for months. The evidence was irrefutable, and the situation was quickly contained. Hartwell Industries renewed their contract. Impressed by the swift resolution, Victoria kept her distance, her attempted sabotage backfiring spectacularly. Owen called her into his office privately. Your work here has been valuable, Victoria, but your treatment of employees is unacceptable. You have 2 options. Transfer to our London office to lead a new division. Or resign. Choose. She chose London, leaving within the week, her jealousy finally costing her the proximity to power she had craved. As for Sienna and Owen, they took it slow. Real dates where they learned each other's favorite foods and childhood dreams. Weekend visits to Clearwater Cove, where Owen met Tyler and Clara, who laughed with delight at the twist of fate. Company adjustments to address the conflict of interest. With Sienna transferring to a different division under independent oversight, their nightly texts continued. Even when they were in the same apartment, inside jokes and sweet messages that built on their foundation of words. They learned that love could start in the strangest places, between 2 people who needed each other before they ever met. 6 months later, they stood in a small chapel in Clearwater Cove. Tyler as the ring bearer and Clara crying happy tears. This time, they exchanged vows, face to face, heart to heart, choosing each other not out of necessity, but out of love. I do, Sienna said, her eyes shining. I do, Owen echoed, meaning it with every fiber of his being. The kiss that sealed their real marriage was witnessed by friends and family. A public declaration of what had grown in private messages and secret conversations. 2 strangers who became friends, who became confidants, who became everything. As they walked down the aisle hand in hand, Sienna leaned close and whispered, "Text me later." Owen laughed, pulling her closer. "Every night for the rest of our lives." And he did.